The room goes dead silent. You are at a dinner party, or maybe a meeting, and someone just dropped a comment designed to gut you. It wasn't a joke. It was a surgical strike. The heat rushes up your neck like a chemical burn. The fork stops halfway to your mouth, and in that split second, you are standing on a trapdoor. You have two choices. You can fall through that trapdoor, stuttering and blushing while the room watches you bleed, or you can stay standing, lock eyes with the person holding the knife, and watch them cut themselves with it. Most people fall. They fall because they are human, but today we are going to learn how to stand. We are going to apply the cold, hard logic of Machiavelli to the messy reality of human emotion. To destroy the person who shames you, you don't need to be louder. You just need to be smarter. Before we talk about what to say, we have to talk about the war happening inside your skull. When that insult lands, you aren't thinking with your logic. You are thinking with your lizard brain. Your amygdala hits the panic button. Your frontal lobe, the part of you that handles wit and strategy, practically unplugs itself. Cortisol floods your system. You lose access to your vocabulary. This is not a flaw. This is a biological betrayal, and it is exactly what your attacker is banking on. Think of social interaction as a high-stakes game of poker. When someone humiliates you, they are going all in. They are betting everything on the fact that your biology will fail you. They are betting that you will get angry, which makes you look unstable, or that you will look down and withdraw, which makes you look weak. Both reactions prove they have power over you. They want to see you sweat. They want to see the panic in your eyes. So, the first step of this defense is not a clever comeback. It is a refusal to play their hand. You have to override the system. You have to acknowledge the heat in your chest and tell yourself that it is just chemistry, not reality. You are not in danger. You are just in a game. Once you cool down the biological reactor, you need to change how you see the enemy. Look at them. Really look at them. Why is a colleague trying to undress your competence in front of the boss? Why is a family member making a passive-aggressive dig at your marriage? If you look at them as a victim, you think they are powerful judges of your worth. That is a mistake. You need to put on the Psychiatrist Frame. Visualize a thick, soundproof glass wall between you and them. You are safe on one side, in a sterile observation room. They are on the other side, banging on the glass, screaming, acting out. Happy, powerful, secure people do not destroy others. They don't have the time. They don't have the energy. Lions do not concern themselves with the opinions of sheep, and they certainly don't go out of their way to maul them for entertainment. Aggression always stems from insecurity. Always. Your colleague isn't attacking you because you are he is attacking you because he feels his own influence slipping, and you look like a threat. He is screaming for relevance. Your family member isn't attacking your marriage because it's failing. They are attacking it because they are projecting their own misery onto you. When you see them through this lens, the anger evaporates. It is replaced by a cold, clinical pity. You are looking at a patient, not a monster. And the doctor is always in charge. Now that your shield is up, it is time to draw your weapon. But your weapon is not words. Not yet. Your weapon is silence. The biggest mistake people make is trying to fill the dead air. We are socialized to be polite. We are terrified of the awkward pause. When someone is rude, our instinct is to laugh nervously or answer quickly to resolve the tension. We want to smooth things over. Stop it. Do not smooth it over. Let it be rough. When the insult lands, you must deploy the power pause. This is the moment you turn the table. Stop moving. Don't fidget. Don't touch your face. Freeze your body language completely. Turn slowly toward them. Lock eyes. If looking them in the eyes is too intense, look at the spot right between their eyebrows, the bridge of their nose. To them, it looks like a predator's stare. To you, it is just a spot on a face. Then, you wait. You count in your head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Let me explain the physics of this moment. It is a social pressure cooker. Silence in a group setting is painful. It creates a massive spike in tension. By refusing to speak, you are refusing to resolve that tension. You are taking all that awkward energy and pushing it right back onto the person who caused it. Imagine the scene. They just made a rude joke. They expect a laugh, or they expect a fight. Instead, they get nothing. Just you, staring at them, completely At 1 second, they think you didn't hear them. At 2 seconds, they start to wonder if you are angry. At 3 seconds, the silence becomes deafening. The other people in the room stop eating. They stop looking at you and start looking at the attacker. The spotlight shifts. At 4 seconds, the attacker's brain begins to panic. The vacuum of silence forces them to confront the stupidity of their own words. Their joke hangs in the air, rotting. They are alone on an island of their own making. This is psychological horror for the insecure. Usually, right around the 4-second mark, they will break. They will try to release the valve. They will look down, shuffle their papers, or stammer something weak. They might say they were just kidding. They might tell you not to be so serious. That is the sound of submission. That is the sound of a predator turning into prey. Without saying a single word, you have forced them to back. You have signaled to the entire room that you are the adult, and they are the child who just wet the bed. This silence is brutal. It is heavy. It requires courage to hold that gaze while your heart is pounding. But remember, the poker game. You are calling their bluff. You are showing them that their words have absolutely zero value to you. But you cannot stay silent forever. Silence creates the opening, but if you hold it too long, it becomes weird. You have stunned the enemy. Now you must deliver the strike. You need to open your mouth and dismantle what is left of their confidence. We are not going to yell. We are going to ask questions. We are going to use a technique I call Socratic. We are going to ask them to explain themselves until they have nowhere left to hide. We will not use rudeness. We will use a civilized brutality, and we will leave them wishing they had never opened their mouths. The second you stutter out, "But I actually worked all weekend," you have already lost. You didn't just answer a question. You walked into a cage. You accepted their authority to judge you. You validated the trial. Stop. You are not the defendant here. You are the prosecutor. In the first part, we talked about using silence to stop the bleeding. Now, we are going to talk about how to surgically dismantle the person holding the knife. We aren't going to use many words. In the game of hijack power dynamics, the person who speaks the most is usually the one losing. We are going to flip the script so that they are the ones sweating, explaining, and back. We start with the speed of the attack. Toxicity runs on speed and shadows. It relies on that hurried whisper, the fast-paced joke, the phrase, "You know what I mean." It relies on the social contract that says you will be polite enough to let it slide to avoid a scene. So, you hit the brakes. You turn on the high beam. When that passive-aggressive manager makes a snide comment during a meeting, or that frenemy drops a subtle dig at dinner, do not get hot. Do not let the adrenaline dictate your mouth. Go deaf. Lean in slightly. Offer a confused look and ask, "I'm sorry, I missed that." Say it again. This seems simple, but it is a psychological trapdoor. You just force them to repeat an insult to a silent room. You strip the joke of its momentum and its element of surprise. You are asking them to perform the same magic trick twice, but this time with the house lights on. Usually, they will fold. They will wave it off, mumble that it was nothing, and retreat. But if they are bold, or perhaps just stupid, they might double down. They might say, "I said, your presentation was surprisingly coherent for someone like you." Now you drop the second trap. You don't get offended. You get curious. You look at them like a scientist studying a bug under a microscope and you ask, "What do you mean by someone like me?" Now, they are sweating. By asking for a definition, you have pushed them onto a landmine. They have two choices. Choice A is to admit they are a bully, which makes them an HR nightmare and a social pariah. Choice B is to scramble for a lie to cover their tracks. They will start to stutter. They will say they meant someone from your department or someone with your background. Don't let them off the hook. Keep looking at them. Keep waiting. The silence is your friend. You aren't yelling. You are just a curious observer, making them dissect their own malice until it looks ridiculous to everyone in the room. You have shifted the burden of shame entirely onto them. However, sometimes the attack is not subtle. Sometimes they aren't hiding in the shadows. They are coming right at you. They are trying to roast you in the open. The natural instinct is to defend. If they say you are disorganized, you want to shout that you have a system. If they say you are arrogant, you want to prove you are humble. This is a mistake. Denial creates friction. Friction creates heat, and heat is exactly what they want. They want to see you struggle. Instead of blocking the punch, catch it and pull it harder in the same direction. Agree and amplify. If a coworker looks at your messy desk and says, "You are a disaster," do not apologize. Do not start cleaning. Smile and say, "I know. Honestly, it is a miracle I found the office today. I might need a map to find the bathroom later." If someone calls you arrogant, lean back and say, "You think this is bad? Wait until Friday. I am planning to declare myself emperor of the Tristed area." You steal the room's laughter. By agreeing with them and exaggerating their insult to the point of absurdity, you are signaling that their opinion is worthless to you. You are so comfortable in your own skin that you can join in on the joke. You look charismatic and unbothered, while they look stiff, bitter, and like they are trying too hard. But then there are the ones who don't stop. We all know them. The toxic ex. The uncle who ruins Thanksgiving. The narcissists who feed on conflict. You cannot outsmart them with questions because they will just twist your words. You cannot disarm them with humor because they don't want to laugh. They want to fight. They are addicted to the drama. So, you quit the game. You treat them like a lamp, a chair, a beige wall you walk past to get a coffee. This is not the silent treatment. The silent treatment is an active form of aggression. It requires effort, and it shows you are hurt. This is different. Tease is total absolute indifference. We call it the gray rock. When a gray rock sits on the ground, it is boring. It offers no engagement. When they try to provoke you, when they try to push your buttons, you give them zero fuel. Your answers become monosyllabic. Okay, sure. Right. Your tone is flat. Your face is blank. You don't make eye contact, but you don't look away in fear either. You just look through them. They will try harder. They will escalate. They will try to bait you with the things that used to make you scream. But you are a rock. Rocks don't scream. Rocks don't argue. These people are emotional vampires. They need your anger, your tears, or your defense to feed their ego. If you give them nothing but static, they starve. It might take time, but eventually, they will get bored. They will realize the well is dry, and they will go find an easier victim. I want to be clear about something as we finish. These technista feigned deafness, the amplification, the gray rock, they are just tools. They are the armor you wear into battle. But the real victory is not a clever comeback. It isn't making them cry in front of a crowd. The real win is the Tuesday morning you drink your coffee and realize you haven't thought about them in 3 months. It is building a life so full of career you love, friends who respect you, a mind that is at peace that their existence becomes a footnote. When you are truly powerful, the insults of the miserable are just background noise. It is just static on the radio. You don't argue with static. You don't try to fix the static. You just change the channel and get back to work. Stand up. You have the tools now. Take back your world.